Thank you very much. Senator Booker.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and of course, Ranking Member, thank you as well. Secretary Vilsack, I was really pleased to see the release of the proposed rule on the voluntary product of the USA label. I completely agree, as your new rule proposes, that meat sold under the product of the USA label should be from animals born, raised, and slaughtered in the United States. I also want to mention my support and appreciation of your work to move forward with key Packers and Stockyard Acts regulations to provide transparency and fairness for our nation's livestock and poultry farmers. This is really, really important. The JBS rules are long overdue to address the abuse of contract farmers by big integrated meatpacking companies. And it is not just the farmers that these companies mistreat. It is recently come to light that immigrant children were illegally employed in some of the most dangerous jobs at meatpacking plants owned and operated by companies such as Cargill, JBS, and Tyson. The meatpacking companies outsourced this work to egregious labor violators and now are trying to shield themselves from responsibility for violations committed by their contractors who hire children to work long overnight hours for low pay cleaning equipment such as skull splitters and bone cutters. These big meat packers have a long history of failing to protect workers. Meatpacking plants are so dangerous that there are an average of 2 amputations every week for meatpacking workers. Meanwhile, these companies continue to use outsized influence and power to be awarded multi-million-dollar contracts from the federal government. Following a prior series of criminal and civil actions against JBS for bribery, price fixing, fraud, you stated, Mr. Secretary, that the U.S. government could not stop awarding these contracts to JBS because the companies have so few competitors. I hope you agree that we should not be rewarding multinational corporations who exploit children and ignore our labor laws with lucrative government contracts. What does Congress need to do in this farm bill to make sure that USDA contracts stop going to these bad actors and start going to small businesses and independent family farmers and ranchers who treat their workers, animals, and communities with respect?
I think, Senator, supporting the work that we're starting to make sure that procurement dollars that USDA invests don't necessarily go to large-scale, all go to large-scale commercial operations, but that a percentage of them be spent with and invested in small and regional local food systems. We've got to have a companion system, I think, in my view, to make our food system more resilient and to address some of the concerns that you've just addressed. There needs to be a little more competition, and one way to get competition is to make sure that procurement dollars are being spent with good employers. I will tell you that the Department of Agriculture is one of the first departments that's looking at ways in which we can ensure that when we use our procurement dollars, we use them with companies that understand the importance of food, of safety, importance of following the rules.
Yeah, well, the rule breaking and exploitation going on with these larger companies is stunning, and I really hope to work with the committee on both sides of the aisle to try to help advance what you just described. USDA programs have a large number of different definitions of what constitutes rural, making it difficult and confusing for municipalities to determine which programs they're eligible for. Furthermore, some of these definitions make it difficult for rural companies in New Jersey and other small states to qualify due to how eligibility is linked to proximity to larger cities. For example, a town in South Jersey, Elmer, that is surrounded by farmland and has a population of only 1,347 people, is being refused service by broadband companies because it does not have enough customers. Elmer is the perfect example of a rural area that should be able to take advantage of USDA's Reconnect program, but it was found to be ineligible because it's connected to a larger municipality through what the USDA calls a string, despite being over 12 miles away. In states like New Jersey, where rural towns are less distant from urban areas, rural communities like Elmer are left with really no options. Mr. Secretary, do you acknowledge that some USDA definitions are leaving certain rural communities behind, and will you work with my office to find ways to ensure that rural communities in New Jersey are able to participate in these programs?
Yes and yes.
Fantastic. The final question, Madam Chairwoman, was requested of me by Senator Fetterman, who we are keeping very much in our prayers. He can't be here to ask the question, Mr. Secretary, but I'm also interested in his question regarding USDA resources for urban farmers. Senator Fetterman has been been hearing from farmers in cities in Pennsylvania that come from county FSA and NRCS offices and believe that they're unequipped to assist with resources for urban farmers. And so on behalf of Senator Fetterman, can you please discuss actions your office is taking to disseminate information on resources for urban farmers to local USDA staff and stakeholders?
The first step in that process was we've identified 17 cities where we are trying to develop the program for urban farming and establishing FSA offices in those 17 cities so that we learn a bit more about what's going on. I will tell you that we do have a series of innovation grants and a series of compost grants that are being funded to cities.
Did you say compost grants?
Compost.
Yeah.
Compost. Millions of dollars being invested in those programs to try to encourage more urban farming. We have established within NRCS a team of folks who are focused solely and completely on urban farming. So I think, I guess my advice to the Senator is for his office to contact us, let us know what communities, specifically cities he's talking about, and we'll make sure that we get information to those particular cities. We want to expand this program. We understand and appreciate that the definition of farming is different today than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's about urban farming, it's about rooftop farming, it's about community gardens, it's about vertical farming, it's about indoor farming, it's about horticulture, it's, you know, hydroponics, agroponics, it's all of that. And it's important for us to be supportive of all of that. We'd be more than happy to work with his office.
No, it's quite exciting, and I know the chairwoman has been a real leader and groundbreaker, pun intended, when it comes to farming in urban areas. And my hope is that we can expand it. The chairman said in his testimony already that local systems are stronger, more resilient in times of crisis like we just saw with the pandemic. So developing the capacity, I think there's an urgency around that and an excitement about it from New Jersey to Michigan and across our country, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the Farm Bill in expanding those efforts.
Well, thank you, Senator Booker, and you're right, there's great excitement, and I think even more excitement about a Farm Bill because we're adding to the breadth of who is impacted by that, and we saw in the pandemic, certainly we saw in Michigan where the access to local healthy food made all the difference as supply chains broke down. So thank you so much, and I also want to just indicate that we're so appreciative that Senator Fetterman's staff are continuing to work closely with us. He is our new chair of the Nutrition Subcommittee and is actively involved. And I know Senator Booker, as former chair, is actively involved as well. But we appreciate the ongoing work that is happening with Senator Fetterman's staff with us every day, and we know he'll be back with us soon, and we appreciate that. So we're looking forward to it. So,
Chair, can I just
yes, Mr. Secretary.
One additional comment, Senator Booker. It's also important for the senator to know that HUD also has programs that could be of assistance. We're working collaboratively with HUD on community garden opportunities, which is an extension of urban farming.
Yeah, just one piece of advice with the Secretary of HUD. I found out the hard way: never bring her vegan food.